Good morning, everyone. I'll open the chat up here in a second. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Go ahead and drop your greetings in. And where you coming in from? Just get everybody participating as we move into this morning's message. It's good to see those of you who are joining from the Zoom room. Good morning, Alicia. Good morning, Al. Good morning. Another iPhone, but I can't tell who it is. Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, Cheryl. Glad to see you guys. If you could drop in the chat if there's any sound issues or visual issues so I can address them before we get started, I appreciate that. Again, good morning. I'd like to see some responses over there. And I want to say good morning to those who are joining this morning by way of YouTube. I pray that things are well with you all also. Okay, we're going to drop right into this morning's message. Let me move a couple things around and we'll get started. Great. I see you guys are dropping in your greetings. Good morning, Ms. House. Good morning, Al. Good morning, grand, glorious day. Hey, Tawanda, good morning to you this also. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Rachel. And I see Cheryl is there. Good morning to you also. All right, if you're in the green, not the green room, if you're on the YouTube channel, feel free to make comments, to drop your greetings in there also as we prepare to get started this morning. Today is Sunday, the 18th of January. We are moving right through this month. So let us get started this morning. Just take a 5-second pause so I'll know where to edit this, and we'll start. Before I say anything else this morning, I need to name something many of us carry, but rarely spoken out loud. There is a particular exhaustion that comes from being told year after year that things are better, while your lived experience keeps contradicting the story. It's this exhaustion of being asked to celebrate progress that you can't feel, can't touch, and cannot pass on. Yes, as we move into this weekend where we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King, and we continually have these breakfasts. So if you've ever sat in a room or at a breakfast or in a service, listening to beautiful words about how far we've come while knowing in your body, at the cellular level, in your family, in your community, that conditions have not meaningfully changed, I want you to say this clearly at the onset with me. You are not confused, you're not bitter, and you're not ungrateful. You are responding to a real contradiction. It's a contradiction between language and life, between memories and material reality, between what is celebrated publicly and what is endured privately. That contradiction is not personal, it's structural. My relationship to Dr. King is not symbolic. I'm a 66-year-old African American male, as those of you who are not visually impaired can see. I was born in 1960, Black, in Chicago. So my relationship to Dr. Martin Luther King is not abstract, it's not biographical. It's real, it's lived. By the time I was 3 years old, my childhood education was already being shaped by assassination, not as history lessons, but as a lived atmosphere. Death entered our homes through television interruptions, hushed adult conversations, and a fear children could feel even if we could not name it. Often, if you were up enough at night to see the evening news, you would see a count will come across the TV. And I was like, what is this count? And it was the casualties from that day. And many of those casualties included the black boys who had disappeared from our community, not going into incarceration, but had been drafted. Now I'm a 60s child, so this is what I seen. This is what I experienced. Leadership was not something you grew into. It was something you survived. The lesson was absorbed before it was ever understood by me. President John F. Kennedy, 1963, Evers, 1963, Malcolm X, 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., 1968. I'm eight then. And then Robert F. Kennedy, 1968. I'm still eight. Not a president, but a presidential contender, was he, whose assassinated confirmed a pattern. 5 years, five assassinations. One death is tragedy. A pattern is instruction. And patterns teach each of us how power behaves long before they teach us how to hope. Long before I understood policy or politics, I understood this much. When black men spoke too clearly, they did not retire, they were removed. This was my reality. That understanding settled into many children quietly. It doesn't announce itself as fear, it presents itself as vigilance. You learn who not to trust. You learn when to be silent. You learn what truth carries a cost long before anyone explains courage to us. So, Chicago is where the dream met reality. Now know this, the dream speech was given in around 63. And many times we are only given the dream, but we have not seen the drift away from the dream. But Chicago is where the dream met reality for Dr. King. In 1966, Dr. King did not come to Chicago to give a speech and leave. He came with a specific goal. That goal was to expose the lie that segregation was a Southern problem that needed to be confronted. So he came and he said that he came to confront that there was a Northern liberalism with its own complicity and to force the nation to reckon with the economic and housing structures that trap Black families in cycles of extraction and decay. I lived on that side of town where he visited. I'm from the west side of Chicago. He came to demonstrate, not theorize, that racism is in the North was quieter, it was contractual, and no less violent. He came to shift the movement from access to accountability, from integration to transformation. Chicago was where Dr. King stopped asking America to feel and he began forcing it to see. He moved into a slum apartment in what we call North Lawndale, 1550 South Hamlet on the west side. At one point in my life, I believe we lived on Hamlet when I was a child. It wasn't a hotel he stayed in. It wasn't a pulpit that he was in. It was a neglected apartment because he wanted America to see Northern segregation up close. And what did Chicago show him? He was bricked by a white mob in Marquette Park. And even at 18, I knew I couldn't go in Marquette Park. That's 1978. I even have friends who got chased out of Marquette Park in the 70s. So, but he was met by a mob that did not hide its hatred, did not whisper its intent, did not fear consequences. This was not chaos. It was community enforcement. Not in Mississippi, not in Alabama, in Chicago. White families, homeowners, Nazi symbols, Confederate flags, police lines holding the crowd and protecting him from it. Dr. King said afterward, I've never seen so much hatred and hostility. Not only did he see it, but he felt it. That was not the South. That was America unmasked. I saw it on TV. The dream was applauded. The vision was rejected. When we remember every year in 1963, what we rarely name is what King learned afterwards. After Chicago, King stopped speaking only about integration and began speaking about structure. He spoke about economic exploitation, structural poverty, northern segregation, militarism, and capitalism moral failure. He said he feared he was integrating black people into a burning house. They don't talk about that. That was not a metaphor to those of us who grew up coughing from the smoke. Integration gave access, but not control. It gave presence, but not protection. It even gave us visibility, but not safety. The house was already on fire, and we were told to be grateful for a room. Let me make it even personal. Fred Hampton, some of you may not even know, but he didn't get breakfast. And what I mean by that, while we were being honest, let us say Fred Hampton. He was a young black man from Maywood, Illinois, the community I grew up in. Brilliant, disciplined, organized, part of the Black Panther Party. He was not asking to integrate. He was asking who owned the table. So in 1969, he was murdered in his sleep by the Chicago Police Department with federal coordination. Many of you know about the COINTELPRO. I'm not going to go into that in this conversation, but it was a very real thing. He had no dream speech, no breakfast, which they were known, the Black Panther Party was known for providing breakfast for the underprivileged and the children who was suffering from food disparity. He had no annual remembrance. Oh, only I know him because he was from our neighborhood. I know him because there was a pool open in his name that to this day is still a very operable pool. It was just blood on the floor. Tragic scene. I remember picking up the newspaper that morning, which was my duty every morning to get up and go to the corner store, pick up a Sun Times for my father that he can have it when he got home from working third shift. And I remember picking the newspaper up and seeing on the very front cover of the Chicago Sun Times the picture of the blood and the police officers carrying his body out of the apartment in a celebratory way and his girlfriend at that time who was pregnant with their son had also been caught up in all of this. So these are the things that are very real for me. So when you start having these I have a dream speeches, or when you start having these I have a dream presentations presented by people who never lived the experience, and if they were old enough to be part of the experience, they don't tell the story of their experience. So they taught my generation something this country still avoids. Dreams are allowed, vision is punished. And punished not only by bullets and batons, but by erasure, by silence, by distortion, by annual celebrations that remove the threat while keeping the quote. America has benefited, Black America has not. Here is the truth. Here is a truth history confirms even when ceremony avoids it. The marches, imprisonments, beatings, and deaths born out of Black struggle expanded freedom across this nation, often first for others. Civil rights victories forged by black sacrifices became the legal and moral framework through which many groups advanced and continue to advance today. Women, immigrants, people with disabilities, religious minorities, the LGBTQ and communities, and workers broadly. These gains are real for them. These gains, they matter. But here is the unresolved truth. Black America paid the price and remains structurally undercompensated. This is not coincidence. It is unfinished justice. Now, my final charge to you this morning. Let me be unmistakably clear. I am not against Dr. Martin Luther King or the remembering of Dr. Martin Luther King. I am against remembering him in a way that costs nothing, demands nothing, changes nothing, in a way that makes the America feels comfortable and erases the complicitness that took place. I am against using his memory as a lullaby to lull people into a dream state, something that is recited to calm the conscience while the house continues to burn. Because a dream that displaces vision is not inspiration, it's management. Dr. King did not give his life so that we could quote him comfortably. He didn't do that for that outcome. He gave his life trying to force this nation to confront what it refused to change. So, if invoking his name does not lead us to examine power, redistribute resources, repair what was broken, and to tell the truth without anesthesia, then we are not honoring him. When we sit by and see militarism is being used even in today, we're not honoring him. There's too much complicity going on in this country, too much reworking of history that people who are still alive know that the story don't jive. We are containing him when we don't speak up. We are restraining him when we don't speak up. Truth does not ask to be admired, it asks to be answered. And now this is the truth. The truth has been spoken plainly, responsibly. To respond no longer belongs to history, ceremony, and speeches. We can't continue to respond through history, ceremony, and speeches. We have to let the rubber meet the road. We have to deal with this, speak to it, be honest about it. Anything other than that is a slap in the face. And so this morning, as I thought about this weekend, as I thought about what's going on as people prepare for tomorrow to go hear all the speeches and the things of that sort, I thought about, I don't want to hear another I have a dream speech because the dream has lulled individuals to sleep. And we need to wake up. We need to come alive. We need to understand that what has happened is no semblance of what needs to happen. So, my challenge to each of you this morning, my challenge is for you, for those of you who lived through the 60s, to remember the 60s and for you to tell the story from your vantage point. For you to say to some young person, that's not really what happened. That's not what we really experienced. And then even share your experience. Share what happened from your perspective. Share how it still uh, um, affects you today. Now, depending on what part of the country you're from, you probably was impacted differently. Being in the South, you probably have a story that we've never heard. You probably have an experience. It's not a story. It's not something that was made up. It's something that you actually experienced. So I want you to begin to tell your stories. Not just listen to what others have to say, but you have a story too. It's important for all of us to know. So let us close with affirming prayer this morning. Let's do that. And that's important to me. Every week we're out here, but I want to be relevant. I want to be relevant because, it's not just coming out here to give you a message or a teaching of transformation, but it's also about sharing information that puts the message in perspective. So this morning, take a deep breath and close your eyes and think back to 1968, 63. Think back to the 60s if you can. And if you can't think back to the 60s because you weren't around, get with somebody who can and let them tell their story. So, my closing reflection, let us not rush past this moment. I acknowledge one presence, one moral order that cannot be fooled by language, ceremony, or delay. I affirm that truth is inevitable. I affirm that no system can call itself just while entire communities remain predictably harmed. I release the temptation to soften truth for the sake of comfort. I release the misuse of hope as a substitute for responsibility. I claim clarity. I claim moral stamina. I claim the courage to remain awake where sleep has been encouraged. I affirm that Black life is not a metaphor, not a lesson, not a symbol, but a measure. And until conditions change in the Black community, our work is not complete. Our faith is not finished. Our silence should not be neutral. And so it is. Amen. So it is. So if you're with me this morning, normally we go into the green room, and I want to go in the green room this morning, and I want some participation. I want to hear your stories. I want to maybe you to speak to what comes to your mind when you think about Dr. Martin Luther King, when you think about what was going on. So what has happened is they've extracted one individual, one personality, and they extracted him in a particular space and time, the speech that he made in 63. They don't talk about the burning house speech. They don't talk about the speeches that came forth as his time of incarcerating jail, being in jail, the letters he wrote. And so let's kind of have a little dialogue this morning, a real dialogue, not you sitting in an audience somewhere, letting someone give you a narrative. So let's do that this morning. So let me take over here to the green room. And as we get into the green room this morning, on our way there, I just want to say if you hear this morning something has been said that's been uplifting and encouraging, and you want to be a blessing to this ministry, feel free to sow a seed. And you can do that very easily by sending either Cash App or Zelle, and you can send it to 708-368-1076. Now, that's all I'm going to say about that. Those who have a desire to give will, and those who won't. And so my life continues on, the ministry continues on, but your participation would make that a little easier to bring the things we want to do into fruition. All right. Good morning. I see we have a number of people on the YouTube channel this morning. Feel free to drop your comments in as we go forward. For those of you here in the Zoom room, I would love to hear from you. What's your reflections? What did you get out of this morning? What was it a catalyst towards? How are you feeling right now? So go ahead and just raise your hand. Let me see if I see any hands here. So again, I want to say good morning to Mom, Carolyn, to Al, Rachel, Cheryl, and the other individuals that are in here that I don't see their names, but I see they're even tuning in by iPhone. So let's talk about it. Let's go. The mic is in your hands, available to you. Rachel says, so true. When a Black man or woman who has a voice with influence, he or she is removed or discredited in some way. And there's a number of ways they can do character assassinations. They don't have to kill you, but they can kill your voice. They can silence you in other ways. Many times they can do things. Now, sometimes it's the little things that individuals do that everybody do, not necessarily get away with, but when a black man does it, you can look at, here's a good example. When you look at a couple of our comedians, who's the um Cosby, how what he made some bad choices, but they're really exploited, and he got put under the prison. Whereas you look at today with the Epstein situation, many of our political figures who actually were involved with dealing with underage children, they are being protected, so they are not being silenced. So that's just off the cuff there. I want to hear from you. The floor is open. Here's an opportunity for me to hear what your experience. Matter of fact, I'm going to ask. My mom is here. I'm going to ask. I do have a couple of hands, and I was going to let me see whose hands those are. I don't see here. Okay, there they are. Okay, Brother Al, and then Rachel. I'll be right with you. You have the mic.
Good day, brother and sir. Love and light to you and the entire Oasis family.
Yes, yes.
I remember I was a
How old are you?
youngster.
Let's
Huh?
put. How old are you?
In the natural or in the spiritual?
In the natural.
I'm technically 63.
Okay, so that frame, we're just framing some things. So, okay, so you're 5 years younger than me. Go ahead,
Uh,
Al.
and so I remember going to school the day that he was assassinated.
Hmm.
And they were having a little ceremony and stuff like that, and people were crying and stuff like that. But I was too young to really know the impact of what was going on. And the only thing I can remember was, as a young person, people have always told me, "Al, you a young person in an old man's body."
Hmm. Hmm.
And I would always be like, "Well, I don't know what y'all crying for. Y'all need to toughen up here." So we did move to Inglewood, and I remember that
And for those who don't know, isn't Inglewood almost like adjacent to what's that?
Marquette Park.
Marquette Park. Marquette Park is to the west of
Yes, to the west of that. Uh-huh. And that's what they were. They would always be like, well, Martin Luther King marched right over here, and they did this because always told us not to go
well
past a certain place
across Pulaski.
walking. Right. Walking. Okay. Because you could get yourself in a little bit of trouble. But by you being young, you don't really understand because you're at the last end or the back end of certain things. You know what I'm saying? So that was interesting. And then as time has went on, as I attend these think tanks and things such as that right there, I always notice that we get together and everybody has their own opinion or their own way of getting to the finish line, but we always end up with nothing being done. And so I got frustrated and I always tell people we come together, we do this, we do that, and we all leave up out of here with nothing. Okay. So then I was just kind of like, why is this? So I asked the older gentleman, he's like 75. And I asked him, like, why do we continually go around in circles coming together with an idea and stuff like that? Then he says, because people are too comfortable. He says people have a bean in their pot, they have a job, so they don't really see the need. If you ain't got no bean or no pot, long as I got one and you don't have one, that's not their responsibility. So I guess they collectively, I really believe that one of our biggest tasks is to realize that we're all trying to get to the same destination.
Yeah,
Okay. But let's begin to maybe hold hands and not ego trip to the point where I got to be the one who saves us.
yes.
No, everybody wants to be the one to say, no, Alan did it. No, Greg did it. No, such and such did it. No, we do it.
Play our part.
Okay. Yes, we do it. And that sometimes maybe my idea might be the best idea, but maybe I could just say, well, you know what? I'm gonna go along with your idea just so we can make some progress here. So I
Mm.
just want to say that I believe that we as a community, we still have a great opportunity because since the George Floyd thing, and even with this current administration, we should realize and understand that we're not really progressing at the rate that we need to, but it's still up to us to take some authority for our own accountability for our community. And last but not least, I guess want to say that I think it was Gil Scott Heron said, people controlling your resources will control your world.
Yes.
And I say thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And one of the things you mentioned that why do some people just sit by and not do anything? Well, we have to realize when we look at the '60s, we see there was a movement of kids, teenagers. When you look at the Black Panther Party and what they really stood for, they were not about political unrest. They said, okay, the children in our community are not eating. Individuals in our community are being attacked, and we're going to use our rights to stand up and do something. They began to carry guns, and that scared America, but that was a right to carry guns. They began to feed the children, and that took the power out of those away from our community and put it right in the community. We began to control our own destiny. When we look at those thriving African American communities that were self-sufficient, every one of them has been torn down, burned down in some way, and have been destroyed. And I think because America yet has taken the responsibility that, or the idea that America thrives off of the situations that you find in the Black community. But it's time for our communities to thrive off of our community, our own resources. Yeah, Rachel, I see your hand. You got the mic. Good morning.
Grand, Grand Sunday, Oasis family. Oh, I'm glad I was able to get up in time. I think I didn't go to bed till 2 o'clock. We're gonna visit my children in Jackson, and I was up making tea cakes.
Oh, excellent.
So,
Excellent.
so
Okay.
that's something I grew up with, and I do like them to experience that.
Okay. Can
Uh,
you can you kind of give us a frame? I know it's not right. I know you're laughing already. It's not right to ask a lady her age, a woman her age, but can you kind of give us a sense what grade you were in or something like that?
I'm 63.
Okay. Oh, you in
Uh-huh.
Al's generation. Notice I said you 5 years behind me. You in Al's generation. So what was
Yeah,
your experience? Were you in Mississippi at that time?
yeah, because that's what this has been my home all my life. I just experienced. I remember a sadness in the house. It's just like my parents were walking around and everybody, and then other family members, because we live in a communal area where everybody's basically family. I
Mhm.
mean, biologically family, and others and extended family, and everyone. My mom has always been, um, she's always been very matriarchal. She's always had a voice, and
Mhm.
when things happen, everybody will always want to come and sit at her feet or gather at her table. So I remember people coming, and it was just, I was small, I was young, but it just was such a sadness. Didn't really understand the impact of it, because Black people here in the South, we didn't talk about much, but we felt it.
I,
Because we knew, I guess the older generation knew, for as when it came to a voice, that they had to, not say a whole lot.
yeah. What
But
what city? What city were you in? You grew up in?
I lived, actually, if the city was called Beulah, Lobdell, Mississippi, which was, I lived on Dahomey Plantation. So
Mm,
that at that time, I was lived and was born on Dahomey Plantation, and my dad was too.
mm. Wow.
So, anyways, I took my children to Memphis, Tennessee, and we toured, the King Museum and everything, and they actually, we allowed they stood on the banister, and we took pictures where he was assassinated. I still have my three smaller children standing where it had taken place, and went to the hotel room where he slept. When I tell you, a feeling comes over you when they tell you that you feel that ancestral spirit. You can actually feel it.
Mm.
It makes you very tearful. They have had a replica of um it had to do with the garbage trucks. They had
Right.
a replica of that.
The I Am a Man march was there. Yeah.
Yes, so it was very very touching,
Hmm.
and that was my experience. But I also I thought about what you said, how we are lulled asleep by just and I think sometimes we as Black people we're looked upon, we're really laughed at in the way of how we this is carried out, and in honoring Dr. King, and actually what honor, but what change has taken place. I remember what you said. You said you would always say, "I listen at you, brother." Sorry, I mean it's amazing how things would come back when you said when I first met you, and you said now you said when I on YouTube you said, How is that working for you?" You often say, "How is that working for you?" Well, brother Al just said something. He said, "Oh, he who controls the resources control the world." And as I think my husband and I was talking back, and my nephew and Keith the other day, we were just talking about how this thing that's going on, everybody's bragging. That's all you hear on YouTube. People talking, we are the true Jews. We are the we are the Hebrews, and different things like that. And what came to mind was what you said. You said, but how is that working for us? That what are we in control of? What are we own in big numbers, and how are we rallying, making this work? Because I'm seeing that we are being bastardized in so many ways for as when it comes to Black companies. I didn't know that there are so many Black companies are actually white owned, but they still the
Yes.
name is being used. So stealing
Exploitation.
all we are being I say exploited, yes. And so that is so true. We are being laughed at. What's the sake of saying we're the true Jews, we're the Hebrews, we're this? Yes, but for this day and time, how's it working for us?
And
Because
even
people that say they are Jews, but they are in control and has the most.
And even the reality is, why can't we be anything? Why can't we be something that represents us?
Yes.
We're the true Jews, but people don't even know the history of that. And that's a whole nother conversation. But why
Hmm.
can't we just be Black or people of African descent and let
Yes.
that be our rallying point? Well, one question I want to ask you. So when King was assassinated, you were about 5. Do you remember Medgar Evers? Anything that was going on around that time? How did that play into your life?
I didn't remember a lot about Mega Everest, but mainly I would hear, I understood. That was the most impact on my family when that happened. My daughter, my sons did stay at in Alcorn. They have a dormitory named after
Okay.
his wife. So that's when I began to study more about him and Mega Evans. But it was mainly Dr. King that was so impactful to my family that I could remember being a small child.
Okay. I'm gonna go to Sister Carolyn, but before I go to Sister Carolyn, I'm looking here in the YouTube, and there is Sparks Fly, and she says the American dream is allowed, but vision isn't. Yes, and that's the reality. And she said absolutely, and still paying it. So she was responding to one of the comments there. So yes, yes, yes. So we have some other people making comments over there on the YouTube channel. Carolyn, I'm gonna pull you in. You have the mic. Good morning,
Good
Carolyn.
morning. Good morning, Asar. Good morning.
Excellent. Can you kind of start the conversation with kind of frame how old you were or what grade you were in or something of that sort, so we can kind of put it in perspective? And Cheryl, I'm going to come to you from St. Louis. Growing up in St. Louis, what was going on here? So if you can kind of gather some thoughts there. And then, Mom, I will gonna close with you, being you were 33 when he was killed. You know, I was 8, and you were 33. So I can remember sitting in the window, and I'll come back to that conversation later. So, Carolyn, you got the mic.
Yeah, good morning, Asar.
Yes.
And good morning, Oasis family. It really took me a minute to get myself together this morning
Mhm.
because just hearing you guys, talk about it, it really takes you back. I'm 73 years old.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah. And I was 16 when Dr. King was assassinated living in Memphis. And, now I still deal with the part of what they call radicalism
Mhm.
in my worldview, rebellion in my worldview. And I look and we listen, people of my generation, especially people that were living in Memphis at the time or surrounding areas, you really had to be there. We talk about the dream and we sanitize it
Mm.
and we romanticize it. But unless you were there, you can present the mannequin, but unless you were there in the streets, unless you saw your parents running,
Take your time.
and then to look at us now and to know that we have been lulled back into a false image. We've been presented this image of ourselves that other people have created for us, and we want to embrace that image. And it's like, no, that's not who we are. And I think about as a 16-year-old girl when I didn't realize this or how much, and I won't call it hatred, but just how much
Call a spade.
disdain I had.
Call a spade a spade. And anger,
I
anger.
was so angry, and a lot of us still live with that anger
Yes.
because what you think have changed, we see nothing has changed. It's just put in a different wrapper. It's put in a different package, and you love the package, but you don't want to go inside the package. When I tell you that being here, moving back here, and you wouldn't think 2 hours made that much of a difference. But the culture in Memphis and the culture in Houston, where my family is from, it's like two different
That's
worlds.
Houston, Mississippi for those who don't know. Okay.
Yeah. And so coming back here, we would laugh because I would say, this is the land that time forgot. Because you come back here and you still hearing people say, well, they're not going to let you do this and they're not going to let you do that. What day are you talking about?
Yes.
Who told you? What day is this
Yes.
that told you that you couldn't? So yeah, listening to this morning and understanding that the hope is because even while all of this was going on, there was a group of black people that were working. Just like doing we didn't stay in slavery, Asar.
Hmm. Hmm.
That there was a group that came out of slavery. We never looked at ourselves as slaves. And even in the 60s, there was a group that was underground that was still moving. And my hope is that today that group is still moving in the background. There's still Fred Hamptons out there. There's still people like you'll never know my mother's name, but to know that she coordinated SNCC in this community. That when teachers couldn't, for fear of their jobs, they couldn't boycott. And so the farmers that had another resource, Brother Al. My mother didn't depend on her teaching salary because she had a farm.
Mm.
And so they weren't dependent on the outside. They weren't dependent on Well, Mr. So and so, we got to wait till the night so Mr. So and so can bring us this. No. And so my hope is, but this generation of us, that there's still that undergrowth under there that's realizing that no, this is not who we are. And true self expression will find a way.
Mm-hmm.
It will find a way. I used to think that this generation was lost until last year we did voter registration. And I'm looking at 18-year-olds that are just now getting registered to vote that are telling me, well, I don't want to vote. I don't want to register because nothing changes. And so we're telling them, do you realize you're the change? Do you realize that your vote is your voice? That no, you may not see it, but at least your representation is heard.
But
At least you can say I don't stand for this.
so I had
So my
Richard, not Richard Carroll. You bring something up regarding the vote. I had a conversation that was brought some real things to light. The children are saying, the young people are saying, when we send someone or put them in office, many times they drop flag or they comply with what's going on in Washington or the things that don't really mean. Like, basically, what they're saying is what they run on, the platform they run on, is not how they do business once they get on the other side. And I can see that if you look historically, those who we send to Washington, those who not just the African from the African American community, but from the white communities they sent to Washington that should to toe the line, they don't toe the line. They comply with. They become complicit. They become silent. When we look at what's going on today, so the vote is not the way. When we need to wake up, it could be one of the ways, but we have to stand and we have to take action.
And do you understand that, Asar? And that's what I'm looking at now. That's that image I'm talking about. They will present us with something that we think is acceptable, and we will run and vote for that, not knowing that they are already bought. We're
Yeah.
still experiencing that. You still have people on the board of aldermen here that
Yeah.
you think is going to work for your community. And then when you get inside, you realize, no, you taking money under the table too. You weren't really for me. And
Black isn't,
so,
yes, black isn't a color, it's a consciousness.
thank you.
African is not a color, it's a consciousness. And everything that's black is not black. It is not African. And we have to be conscious of that. We have to be conscious of acculturation. We have people who are acculturated into the greater society, so they look like you, but they have cultural mores that don't represent our highest and greatest good. So we're in a
Mhm.
really strange predicament because you can't identify the enemy because it's our enemy. It's,
Right. You heard the saying, you're my kin, but you're not my kind.
come on now. Come on.
Yeah. And so we have to be discerning. It's back to the spiritual part of us
Mhm.
where we're discerning who is of you. Not the color of your skin, but the color of your spirit. Which way are you going there? So, you know, today is like I'm in tears, my heart, because
That's all right. You just
I
open,
was
right, right.
yeah,
You're revisiting
yeah,
something that was unresolved.
yeah.
The way.
Because see, you're as a kid, you're looking at people do these things. I'm looking at my mom, teaching in a church at night,
Mm.
teaching people how to write their name and how to
Now
read
say that
because
again. Say it again. This is 1968. Your mother is teaching people how to write.
how to read and write. Yes. Because in order to vote, you had to be able to write your name. And don't think it's just a legend about the bubbles and the marbles in a bottle. You had to be able to count that. You had to be able to guess how many bubbles would come out of a bar of soap.
Come on now.
And start those things are real.
Was that for
And that's
everybody?
yeah, well here in this county it was, and
I
I'm
mean,
sure
was it
all
for
over the South where people were trying to vote. Yes.
did the whites have to count the bubbles?
Oh no, of course not. Of course not.
Right, right.
So
Let me ask you this. You mentioned that you were angry, rightfully so. Let me ask you, did the church help that anger? How did the church experience help or hinder you?
The same way the church is helping and experiencing now. That's why I'm on this call with you this morning. That's why I'm a part of Oasis Ministry,
You expound on that?
because even our leaders, supposedly leaders, they give you the illusion that they're fighting for you. But you know what we used to call Uncle Toms, and I hate that phrase, because you got, you got Benedict Arnolds in every society.
Mhm.
But the thing in our church back then and now, pastors really were afraid. Fear is
Real.
talk about, yes, it's real and it's very paralyzing. And so now the church back then, yes, they would meet. That's where my mom used to go and teach the classes, in the church. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them, but what they call harbor churches.
No.
This is where black people had to meet out in the woods. And they built these little things called lean-to, because in order for them to gather and strategize and plan, they would have to frame it as, they were meeting to pray or to preach or whatever, but they had to have structures that they could easily take down if they knew the Klan was out there, if they knew even the people that on plantations that they lived on was watching them. So they called them brush harbor churches. So they could act like they could just
Wow.
fold them over. And
Yeah.
the same thing with the church now, Asar. Oh gosh. It's You were talking about truth. Nobody wants to tell the truth. The truth is not pretty. The truth is too clarifying. And when you've lived with an illusion and an image of yourself for so long, when you're threatened, when that image is threatened, you want to protect it. You would defend a lie.
Yes.
And I'm looking at our churches now, and I'm like, what happened? What are you teaching me? I go in your sanctuaries, and I come out feeling dirty. I come out feeling worse than I did when I went in.
Mhm.
So now I kind of stay away from those, what I call the Babylonian church.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Hmm. I
let me
stay out of this. I stay out of the sepulchers.
let me interject this. How can we believe that a people who once oppressed us will give us something that liberates us? And one of the things that we have been given inside of the enslavement process was we were given Christianity. And as long as Christianity is the center of our society, you're not going to deviate too far. Like example, you're accustomed to certain things like slaves obey your master. You are
Hmm.
accustomed to a dialogue say you will get yours in the great by and by. And so the the one of the hidden um thing now the black church, when I say the black church, it takes on a different meaning. The black church is the safe harbor church, not the black church that's just the United Methodist or the Baptist church, but it's that other church that if you drive down the street, you just see a church, but when you get inside, there's another message. We don't have many of those today. We have
Exactly.
we have too many churches that are giving a false narrative or a narrative that will never liberate us. And
Well,
that's all.
they've been given the message that they want preached,
That's right. And
and we
that's
sit.
a whole nother conversation.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right. And when you understand this, and let me say this, and I'll be
Mhm.
quiet. Speaking of the
I like
church
I
today,
like you say be quiet. Just say that. I'm gonna leave it right there. Okay.
I
Go.
tell my so-called evangelical friends,
Uh-huh.
when you want to tell me or talk to me about equality, I ask you, who did you vote for? When you tell me, Carolyn, you're welcome to come worship with us, but yet you won't give my school. You won't vote for the
Yes.
things that
Yes.
my school needs. Everything that your actions tell me something different about you. So now I'm like, please don't talk to me as an evangelical because I don't trust you guys.
Yes. Can,
I see who you are.
That's right. Rachel said they are not like us, they are not us. If they're not
Right.
like us, they're not for us. That's true. I'm gonna go over to Cheryl, and then I'm going to go to my mother, and then I have a little poem I want to share with you guys. Al, did you have something else? I think I see your hand up. You go ahead, if you did. Yeah,
No,
okay.
I'm good, sir.
Okay, good deal. Let's go to Cheryl Rogers. Where are you at, Cheryl? You have the mic. What's going on with you in St. Louis in 63, 65, 68, 70? What's your perspective?
Grand Rising Diviners, I've
First of all, how
just
you doing
been,
this morning?
oh, I'm a little teary-eyed because when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated, well, first let me tell you, my father was one of the people in the community who collected signatures to take to the March on Washington.
How's your father?
My father is 91. Daddy is 92. No, Daddy be 92 this year. Daddy is 91. Okay, Daddy is 91. I'm 67. So I remember that. I was 10 years old. So my father was very active in the community. He was always speaking out against injustices and things like that. So anyway, he collected signatures for the March on Washington. He was in attendance. He um when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, he had a nervous breakdown, and that changed our family's lives. And I can't say if he was ever uh the same anymore, but it it impacted us greatly. And um I was not really old enough to really know what was going on, but I knew it changed my life. It changed my family's life. And now when I'm listening to the people talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, I'm in agreement with you. They don't talk about the speeches that are meaningful, that were controversial, that said we are still in the house that's on fire. We still are. Now, I'll say this to that. The leaders or the so-called leaders, they're afraid because anytime the vision is put forth, the visionaries are murdered, removed, whatever tactics are employed at the time to silence them. So, in a kind of way, I can see why no one would be eager to stand up and present anything. But I think like this, if we don't name a leader, we just all come together and say, this is what we're going to do. There's no leader. You do what you do what I do, and we meet and we just don't let as I don't know who says it, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing, but you just do it and come together.
Can you share about there's since I've been here, I've come across. First off, I'm talking about your father and his bookstore.
Oh, well, actually, it was right around the same time my father was um, the first African American in the city of St. Louis to open up an African artifacts bookstore. So he was, let me think, because uh, Daddy was 30, Daddy was 33, Daddy was 33. And what he did at that time, he was trading with vendors in Africa. He had books, he had artifacts, he had my mom. He was trading with countries in Africa that he was getting um, fabric, genuine fabric. And my mom, who is she's a tailor. Well, I'll say seamless because she never sewed for anybody. But anyway, she made the dashikis that the people were wearing in the 60s, in 68, 66, 70, up almost, I think, to 70. 70 was when the shop closed because at that time, people would say my father was ahead of his time. And I believe he was because he was talking about things and doing things that nobody else in the community was doing. He did have some support, but it was not enough to sustain our family. So, first, I gotta say, he quit his job at the post office to open up the bookstore. But when it declined and he had to close down, he went back to working for the post office. But he had that bookstore. He was featured in the St. Louis Globe. St. Louis Post-Dispatch was the prominent newspaper at the time, and nobody was doing that. So I have a picture of the article on my wall to remind myself that my father was conscious and I was conscious when I was 10. And to look around now and see we're not very far.
Can you talk about the gentleman that scaled the arch?
Oh, Mr. Percy Green.
Can you put in
M-
perspective what year was
Yes,
that?
Mr. Percy Green is an African American male who was also working alongside my father, identifying injustices in St. Louis. And so he worked for McDonnell Douglas at the time, which was the big aircraft company in St. Louis. And he lost his job because he said in the building of the arch, the monument in St. Louis, there were no black contractors. So he and another guy took it upon themselves to scale it in protest. He stopped the operation of them building it, and it was a big, it was on television and everything. At the time, he was reprimanded for it, but just recently, I think last year, they did a documentary about him and the whole story. So he's getting recognition. Now, he's my mother's classmate. My mother will be 90 this year. And I know Mr. Green. I see him from time to time. And I always ask him how he is, what's going on. He's still active in the community, still speaking out against injustices. He doesn't have an army behind him very much anymore, but he is still battling and still representing and still speaking out.
And what's amazing about that, so I work for the federal government, and the building that I'm in is the old Jefferson Bank building. It's the actual bank that Mr. Percy led a march on, a sit-in. Did a sit-in that bank because blacks were not allowed to be tellers in that bank. And it's amazing that I work in that same building and it hasn't changed much. So when I walk into the building every day, I'm mindful. Like my coworkers, when they walk in, they don't see what I see. I see that lobby that was filled with Percy Green and those who were like him. And
Yeah.
so it's just amazing. I'm in a place, and this is a place that brings liberation to now many of our veterans who have are housing at risk or similar situation like that. So you can, as we listen this morning, we can see that many of us still have some stuff below the surface that never has been addressed. Because when we talk about it, we tear up, we feel sadness, and then we have to sit in these conversations with people who don't even bring that up. That's sad. So I'm going to ask, thank you, Cheryl, for sharing that. Thank all of you who have shared and been transparent this morning. Mom, I'm going to ask if you could come on and just share. You were 33 when King was killed, and I can remember. Let me frame it to help you remember. When the night he was killed, or the night he was assassinated, We were living on West Side. We were living 3503 West Fifth Avenue. And I can remember the city on fire, looking out the window with you. And I remember asking you, is this how it's going to be at the end of the world? Because there was fire everywhere. And you comforted me and us. But I also remember that the fire got so bad that we had to evacuate our building. And I can remember that we were on the front page of the Sun Times, and it showed you. I think you were here. So I was 8. Donnie was 5, and you were carrying Donnie, and we was getting in the car. But everything around us was smoke and fire. So, Mom, if you want to talk about, share anything you want. If you're still there, yeah. You have the mic this morning, Mom. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, all. Good morning.
Excellent.
I still live in that day, those days. First of all, let me all tell you all something, which you don't know. Chicago is the most segregated city in the world. I grew up here. I know. And what Dr. King preached, the people don't really uh care about it. They don't. They'll do that to get some money or something. But he was good to us. But right to this day, let me tell you something. You all might not like what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it. If you notice, if you go to the store, that white man don't want you to put your hand in here to get the money out.
Mm,
Nope, you don't do it. And the first thing they say, and this is something I just hate. I hate to use the word hate. Don't you tell me nothing about you people, or
mm.
you finna get cussed out. Real good.
All right, let me
Real
stop you,
good.
Mom. Right, started. I remember one day being I don't know if we were shopping for school clothes or something, but the lady in the store said, "You people," and I thought the whole family was gonna get killed that day. Because my mother went in on that lady, and I didn't understand why she went in on her by saying you people. But as I grew older, when I hear that term you people, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Amen. Let me tell you something. These doctors, these nurses, these hospitals is the worst darn segregation there is. If you old, they try to snatch you around. When I was going through chemo, this nurse jerked my arm. I said, wait a minute, that's an arm. I ain't thinking she could kill me because she putting that shit stuff in my arm. So I said, listen, I'm human. Don't do me that way. I don't have to. I said, well, don't do it. Oh yeah, I got real nasty. She was nasty. So I called the head nurse. She sent somebody else over there. But they still could have put the wrong stuff in me.
Right. Right.
But then again, they'll snatch you around. They'll
Mhm.
do this, do. Don't put your darn hands on me.
Right.
Let me alone.
Right. Can
Don't,
you
don't.
kind of take us back to um like you are probably the oldest person on the call. Can you take us back to 68? What do you recall about that day he was killed or what was going on in our community?
It was bad. It was bad. I got home from work and it's all over the news. My husband walking the floor. It was really bad. Later on that night, everything on the west side was burning up. It was on fire. We was over cleaners. We had to get out. I had to put y'all in my arm and a pillow and walk you to the car. It was bad. You know, it's a shame to say this, but we are using Dr. King's day for money and prestige. We're
Yeah.
not using it for what he wanted to be used for.
Mm.
No, they're not. They got breakfast here, breakfast there. You got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Now, look in the White House. How many down there do you see is for Dr. King? All them black folks, but they with the Republicans. They with the Republican people. They're not trying to help us. What it is, we need to try to help ourselves.
There it
I'm
is.
90 years old. I'm not no pushover. I'm not gonna let you say anything to me. I don't turn no other cheek unless I got a gun in the other hand. Okay? So we should try to be better with one another
Yes.
and listen. That's it. We should be better with, don't let that white man, pink man run out lives.
Yeah.
We live too.
You
If it
spent,
wasn't for us, guess what? You don't believe this. He wouldn't survive.
that's right.
Mm.
That's right. So can you talk to, I know you grew up in the South though, right? You came to,
No, I grew up in Chicago, the
but you spent
most
time in the South?
educated city in the world.
But did you spend, from what I know, you spent some time in the South though, right?
I used to go to visit.
Okay. And what was that like for you?
Well, they kept me under bars. My grandparents, my mom, I couldn't go out and be with the people because I was outspoken. I
Mm.
said what come up, come out. And I couldn't do that. They said, you'll get killed like that young man did, Emmett Till. You
Mm.
can't do that. You got to watch your mouth in the South. Watch it, wash it, walk on silk, everything down there by Indianola. I'm speaking of Indianola,
Hmm.
Mississippi. I'm speaking of Drew. I'm speaking of Leela. I had to come out of there. When I go down there for the summer to visit, I was in the house or out there on the back or under the shade tree. I couldn't communicate with the people because I had a flip mouth
Yep. Still got it.
and still got it. And
Right.
guess what? I'm going to live to be 102
Yes, ma'am.
and still go have it. Ask Al.
That's why
Ask,
that's why I monitor her when she on the call. No, but Demond, thanks for sharing, and we appreciate you. And Rachel said, the wisdom of the members on this platform and the lived experience is priceless. And see, that's why one thing I, I'm glad we have this platform, but when we miss, it's a whole powerful, different experience when you really get to rub shoulders with people, to know people. We're more powerful, even as a nation as of Black people. We're more powerful than we've been led to believe.
amen.
And so this morning, I want to close with this, unless somebody got something else. I see Rachel. Did you have anything else? I wasn't sure if your hand was still up.
Or Carolyn.
Carolyn, did you have anything else, Rachel? Before I
Yeah,
give, go ahead.
yep. Sister Carolyn brought up about the black church, and I want to say, Mom B, you were in my back door because I'm like 15 minutes from Leland and 30 minutes from Indianola, so you were in my back door, or front door. Back to the church. I'm gonna say this because I know a lot has been said, but when she was talking about the church, I remember growing up that whenever someone wanted to be elected, any senator, they always came to the black church because they knew the influence of that's where we
Mm-hmm.
met. And that was our community. And they knew the influence that black ministers had on the community. And if the ministers said, y'all vote for this man,
Mm-hmm.
then that's how everybody vote, not knowing that he's been paid under the table,
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
or what have you. But I found on YouTube, this man was talking about how and why black people switched from the Republican Party, because we were Republicans, original, to the Democrat Party. And I found that on YouTube and I saved it. It's very interesting why that took place, because so many people now, I hear a lot of young people, y'all know, and I have relatives, our people voted for Republican anyway. Why are we fooling with these Democrats? But I shared that with him on YouTube. I said, listen at this as to why we transitioned from Republican, because of things that took place that we saw was happening. So thank you.
yeah. And then when we talk about these parties, you got the right wing and the left wing. The wing is part of the same bird, and it takes both wings to make that bird fly.
Mm-hmm.
So I am not part and partial to any wing. I am more part and partial to which represents my highest and greatest good right here, right now. That's what we got to look at. And when we look at, old things have to pass away.
Mm-hmm.
Something new needs to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we keep doing generation after generation is allowing these individuals to speak for us. But the African word is kujichagulia. We have
Mm-hmm.
to begin to name for ourselves. We have to do for ourselves instead of being waiting around to be spoken for or done for. We got to do our own thing. And anytime we do, we're looked at as being rebellious. But any other people group can be self sustaining. Like I like Chicago because you can go to quote unquote Jewtown, you can go to Chinatown, you can go to Polish Town. So if I wanted authentic cuisine from any one of those, I could go there and eat. But there's no black town, there's no African town, there's no town that represents us. We are exploited because we allow people to exploit us and we exploit one another. Um, Rachel said, form our own party that is for our highest and greatest good. And if it's not a party, it can be a filter that say we hold people accountable. We hold every politician accountable that runs on a platform that represents us, but when they get in office, they don't represent us. We're going to deal with them. So I want to close with this morning. Miss Ivy House, I see you with us this morning. If you're in the house and you got something you want to say, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to do that now. Miss House, where you are you, did you grow up in St. Louis? I don't know if she's still with us or not.
Mhm.
But okay, she may have dropped off. So I want to close with this. It's
Sir,
Oh, there she
Hey,
is.
Miss House, how
Yeah.
you doing?
here I am, sir. I was. Good morning, everyone. Good
You
Good
still
morning. Good morning.
celebrating?
morning.
You still
Good
celebrating?
morning. I was sitting here thinking, and I I was raised in East St. Louis,
Okay,
Illinois,
okay, okay.
and I didn't know that I was supposed to be a poor little black girl from the ghetto until I went to college
Hmm.
because I had such a wonderful upbringing, and I believe my parents really tried the very best that they could to make sure that we were exposed to so many things. And
Hmm.
so, I, I remember when John F. Kennedy died, and I remember being a baby sitting on the floor, and my mother was crying. I remember that.
Hmm.
I was a little girl who was always into uh black power, and I've never been a Negro. I've always been
Come
black.
on now.
And so my father, I remember him telling me when I was a little girl, don't let me have to come up to your college and lay on the floor with you because you're protesting.
Hmm.
So I was raised in an environment where, you know, I, I was raised to be a person.
Yeah.
And so I only until I went to college did I truly know I was supposed to be a poor little black girl from the ghetto.
Yeah.
And that's when it really kicked in with other people's perspectives because I was so blessed and so fortunate to live in a world surrounded by strong African
Mm-hmm.
Americans, in the community. The judge lived on the same block
Come on
as
now.
all of the educators, right? My mother was the den mother for the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts. I was one of the first girl Cub Scouts.
Come
I
on.
danced at the Catherine Dunham Museum. So as a little brown girl in America, I was very blessed. And I had somebody who kind of held that against me because I didn't have one of those poor little black girl stories. But in the same time, I'm still a black woman in America. And
Mm-hmm.
I have had to live through so many things, being the first African American ever hired full time in the education department at Missouri Botanical Garden.
Come
Two
on.
weeks after I started working there, uh, a white volunteer went to my boss and asked her, why did you have to hire that black lady? Like somebody made them hire me. You know, I experienced more racial situations as I grew up in the world because I had been so blessed with the level of confidence to be able to believe in myself. But then I realized that the world itself don't care nothing about me and what I'm bringing to the table. So I sometimes think about that, but
people always want to talk about East St. Louis, but you had to live there to truly understand the quality. The little girl who in the a cartoon, she always wanted a horse. I had my own horse. My
Right.
daddy got me one. Okay, so you know that she was a little white girl. You know, so I had my own seamstress who would sew the things that we needed. I didn't know that. So when I went to college, Asar, and I have to admit this, I thought more black people in the world were raised at the level that we were in East St. Louis and the level of community that we had there.
Yeah.
The people that I graduated from high school with who were dating then and got married, they are still married 40 some years later. You hear me?
What year did you come
Because
out?
sir,
What year did you come out of high school?
1978.
Okay, same as me. So I say that to kind of frame. I didn't want to ask a lady how old she was. So
I
that
just turned 65 last Saturday on the 10th.
okay. So here's the thing. You grew up in an insulated, well-to-do community.
I
People don't
did.
understand that. And so when you're in an insulated community, you don't they protected us. And they that when you left the community, it wasn't until after you left the community that you found out you wasn't the norm. My
Exactly.
mom says she didn't know she was colored until she went to high school in Chicago, Cooley High, Wells.
I understand.
And so we have to put this in perspective. And we are in a time where we are allowing individuals to rewrite history. Guess what? They can do that all they want. It's our responsibility to tell our stories. It's our responsibility to use the churches to talk about real history, not making our history a mystery. My story
Mhm.
is my history, not his story.
I understand.
Yeah. So I appreciate you for sharing that. So as we close this morning,
Miss
Sorry,
Curley want
before
to
we
say
close,
something.
can I
oh, yeah,
say one more
Miss
thing?
yeah.
Curley want to talk.
Thank you for facilitating. Trill, thanks for facilitating. Go ahead.
Guys, listen, thank you all for raising my spirit this morning, um, and bringing that hope again alive. Just wanted to add to what Mother B said. I didn't know I was black, Asaran, until my senior year of high school. And that's because I was bused to an all white school because everything in my neighborhood was black. And when you're talking about rewriting history, that's why it's so important to me that we tell the truth. We talk about Bill Street, we talk about Memphis, and we talk about all these other black towns. Memphis was basically black in the 50s, 60s. You know, we owned downtown. First black bank, you know, Memphis, Tennessee. But the thing was, when I hear people talk about, and you go on Bill Street now, and you may see a handful of blacks, you know, and we're walking around looking, and everybody's all excited. And I'm like, this is not Bill Street. You know, have you
Right.
been to the Orpheum? We owned the Orpheum Theater. You know, we had the ballets and stuff coming in. And so yeah, it's important that we remember our history. Bill Street now, when we talk about the commercializing of Dr. King, no, the commercializing of our whole history.
Yeah.
It's being rewritten, and our children are accepting that as truth. No, that's not who you are.
Yes.
That's not where you came from.
Mm.
You're
Yes.
not descendant of slaves. You're descendants of builders.
That's
You
right.
you're
Mm.
you're you're descendants of resilient people.
There
Mm-hmm.
were no black
And
slaves. They were enslaved, but not
yes,
one could call themselves a slave.
right, right. So yeah, I'm that's my hope this morning,
Excellent.
that even though it looks like it may be going in the wrong direction, there's still that undergrowth. There are people like you, there are people like us who
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
that story will not die. It
Yeah.
didn't die in us, it
Yes.
didn't die in our parents, and it's not going to die in the next generation.
And when you get
Mm.
the
Yeah.
chance to have a platform, like you in the public meetings, and like if you some of you guys go in tomorrow to those events and they open it up floor for the audience, tell your story. Tell them what you experienced, what you saw, what is the truth behind the matter. Majority of the preachers didn't get behind Dr. Martin. They didn't
Sure
support
didn't.
Malcolm X.
Mm-mm.
It was not until the story was glamorized that it became. So I'm
Mm.
reminded of a
And I'm doing that tomorrow. I'm on a program tomorrow, and I'm like, you're gonna be surprised at my speech.
excellent, excellent.
Oh, we want to hear it, Miss Carolyn.
Your presentation because you're going
Yes.
to them and just let the spirit use you. You know, when you have a platform, you have to be responsible to it. I'm reminded of a story. You know, if there's two vendors, one on the north side of the street, one on the south side of the street, they're both selling ice, selling ice. One is a black vendor, one is a white vendor. And we found that most of the black people were going to the white vendor, believing that the white vendor's ice was colder. The reality is, all ice freezes at the same temperature. And we have to be mindful of that. Segregation was one of the worst things that ever happened because we thought their ice was better than ours. Their schools were better than ours. Why is it we were segregated into their schools and they were never segregated into our schools? How many of our children dreams were deferred because they went into a system that was set up to destroy them? But we thinking it was the child, but it really was the system. So I want to close with this, a poem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrup sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Langston Hughes. Thank you guys for your time this morning. I hope something has been said that has been encouraging, uplifting, and inspiring. Thank those of you who has joined in over on the YouTube side of the house. Join us next week. Yes, Miss Sparks said, yes, my story to tell. Once we know it, I'm Kauai native. I'm Kauai native. So I really wish I could hear her voice and let her say what she needs to say. So the way to do that for those of you on the YouTube channel is I send a link out every week, and you can come on to the live platform. And we love to hear from you. Your voice is so important to us. And I thank you guys for the time we've had together. And I hope it has really been igniting and it opened up a new flame. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys on Monday morning. Monday, same time, 6 a.m. We do our morning meditations Monday through Friday, 6 to 6:15. Go to the website Solutions for Living. Go over to the page that reflects all the information you need, and join us. Cheryl, do I have the okay to close? You're facilitating the room there. Is nobody's hanging out there trying to be heard, is it?
No, you can send us off with our closing prayer. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, the prayer has been spoken, and I'll just say this. May the power that lives in each of you resonate through you, that you show up not as a male or female, not as a black or white person, that you show up as a divinely inspired spiritual being, encapsulated in a human form. Be great. Move through the life as a victor, not a victim. And so it is. Amen. All right, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Awesome. I'll see you guys when I see you. I'll greet you when I meet you. Talk to you later. Peace. Oh, one last thing I wanted to say. When I was a kid, I'm gonna say this and we're gonna close. Every morning in my school, I went to Washington Elementary, which is now a language school in Maywood. Hispanics are mostly going to school. But every morning we would sing. First, we would say the national anthem, and then
Mhm.
Black national anthem over the loudspeaker, and then we would sing "Say It Loud," "Black and the Proud." The principal would have it playing James Brown "Say It Loud" on the over our head speakers, and we was just having a good time before we started our lesson. And that's the kind of environment I grew up in. I grew up in an environment where it was not second nature to be show up as a black child. So that's my experience, and I'm sticking to it. You guys take care. I love you.